Most couples get poor the moment they decide to move in together. They combine their incomes, their firepower shoots up to six figures, and their brains get infected by a virus. The illusion that they can now live like adults. They trade their single life economy for a lifestyle that demands every penny of both salaries just to stay afloat. I am Buck, and in this briefing I will teach you the military protocol of the soldier's quota to armor your union and transform your second income into a nuclear weapon of wealth. I want you to look coldly at the portrait of a modern Western family, the exact type of scenario the financial market gives a standing ovation to every day. Visualize a young, ambitious couple with degrees in hand. Together, their two income streams add up to a formidable firepower of $120,000 a year. By basic logic, by the napkin math they teach us in high school, they should be destroying every obstacle on the battlefield. They should be building an insurmountable wall of generational wealth, maxing out retirement funds, and living with a safety margin so vast that the word stress shouldn't even be part of the household vocabulary. But what is the reality behind closed doors? The absolute opposite. They are locking horns in visceral arguments over the credit card bill at the turn of every month. They are living on the suffocating edge of a paycheck-to-paycheck existence, praying to the heavens not to get a flat tire or a leak in the roof. And through an invisible and cruel mathematical distortion, they are somehow poorer and more over-leveraged today than when they were single, living alone, and earning exactly half of what they make now. This is not an isolated case, and it's not a rare statistical anomaly. This is the rule. It is the harsh, concrete, and documented reality for the overwhelming majority of dual-income couples today. And the reason for this impending bankruptcy is by no means a lack of capital. They don't make too little money. The reason is that they fell, eyes closed and smiling, into a tactical trap of social engineering so subtle, with a poison so slow and gradual that the gears crushed them before they even realized the cell was locked from the outside. I am Buck. And today we are going to perform a lethal autopsy on the two-income trap. I have seen countless relationships equipped with impressive combined incomes crumble in silent misery, while single tactical operators, pulling in a mere fraction of that amount, build an armored sovereignty that no one can tear down. If you're in a serious relationship, if you share the same roof with someone, and you can't decipher the code as to why anxiety over bills never leaves your dining room, or if you're about to merge your financial life with someone else and don't want to be slaughtered by the system, pay close attention. Grab your pen. The war briefing is about to begin. Here's the fundamental trap that captures the human mind, the brutal flaw in the merger architecture. When two people in love decide to cross the line and move in together, combining their IDs and their earnings, they almost never do it in an analytical, cold, and strategic way like two generals uniting troops in a corporate mutual protection pact. They combine these resources like two rivers dumping water into a stormy ocean. Everything mixes in the same chaotic whirlpool, the traceability of the supply line is completely lost, and suddenly, no one has the slightest idea into which specific black hole Tuesday's $100 bill disappeared. The man enters the game earning $60,000. The woman enters earning $60,000. Both of their primitive minds look at the joint balance sheet and decree, great, we now have a $120,000 empire to play with. Then, in a synchronized manner, they go out and trigger a total, drastic, and sweeping upgrade to their entire life logistics to mirror and match exactly what television dictates a six-figure family should flaunt. And it is exactly in that second, upon accepting this premise of consumption, that the stone foundations they built as individuals collapse like a sandcastle. For this doctrine to enter your bloodstream, we need to see the mechanics operating in the field. Meet our two civilian test subjects, Tyler and Jessica. When operating on the front lines as a lone wolf, Tyler was making about $55,000. His survival instinct was sharp. He lived in a cramped studio apartment shared with two roommates, spending only $800 on rent. He drove a sturdy, fully paid-off 10-year-old car that didn't impress anyone but never gave him headaches with banks. The logistical cost to feed his body was around $300 a month, Because the mission was simple: cheap calories, meal prep, and efficiency. His total expense load hovered around $2,000. What does that mean tactically? It means that Tyler, alone and with an average salary, was injecting and saving a massive $1,500 every month. Jessica, in her trench, operated in a brilliantly similar way. She brought home $50,000. She lived modestly in a small apartment with an old car and sharp, lean costs. Her efficiency generated a surplus, an untouchable savings of $1,000 a month. Therefore, the naked math before the merger was glorious. Totally independently, without relying on each other, they were saving and stacking a formidable $2,500 a month. This represented $30,000 clean dollars of tactical reserves a year, built on a combined firepower base of $105,000. As single people, they were cruising down an express highway toward a fortune. Then, they made the big civilian decision. They decided to live under the same roof, and the entire source code of both their brains got infected by a behavioral virus. They took that brutal sum of $105,000 in revenue and told themselves the most dangerous and venomous phrase in Western society. We can finally live like real adults. No more sharing an apartment, no more car with grinding gears, no more cheap pizza. We've crossed the six-figure line together. We must, by right, enjoy a high-level life. They abandoned the security perimeter. Lifestyle inflation kicked the door down. They signed an aggressive lease for a premium two-bedroom apartment in a prime, overrated neighborhood for the bargain price of $2,500 a month. In their blind minds, one would think only 25% of gross income. The internet says that's acceptable. Tyler and Jessica shipped off their paid-off cars and signed 2 fat financing deals at the dealership because, after all, a prosperous family needs safe and elegant transportation. His car payment jumped to $450, hers to $375. The food logistics turned into a collapsing circus. Cooking at home for 2 work-tired people required a coordination they refused to have, so they turned constantly eating out into a sacred right of the couple to enjoy the relationship. That Spartan food budget that previously totaled a combined $600 violently exploded to the $1,500 a month mark. They bought wildly expensive furniture because the adult apartment rejected the used college sofa. Weekend trips became routine because that's what prosperous couples do on Instagram. The kinetic result of this self-inflicted attack? Their fixed cost of living jumped from an organized $4,000 when they were 2 separate lines to an exorbitant $7,000 now that the umbilical cord was tied. And here is the true psychiatric madness of this phenomenon. They genuinely believed this was normal financial behavior. The whole society repeated the lie in their ears that living together generated economies of scale because they would split the electric bill and the internet. And yes, technically, the check each one signed for the new rent seemed slightly smaller than renting a decent place alone. But consolidated and aggregated in the trenches, they were pouring gasoline on their own capital. In the old isolated format, they saved $30,000 a year for their own empire. With the new gears turning, pulling in the exact same volume of money, their savings plummeted to a measly $18,000 a year. They lost $12,000 a year in net combat power simply for merging their bases under a premise of illusory luxury consumption. The math of the ego is unforgiving. This is the invisible backbone of the two-income trap. Combining 2 incomes into the same bucket creates a neurological fog, a strong optical illusion of unlimited wealth, which forces your mind to justify a catastrophic increase in liabilities. Understand the brutal psychological difference. When you are just a lone operator making $50,000, there are no possible lies to tell yourself. You look at your pay stub, and reality screams in your face that you are not rich. Your defenses stay on maximum alert, and you execute modest decisions because the math of the physical limit does not allow for daydreams. $50,000 dictates austere rules. But when forces unite and the joint household income knocks on the door of $100,000 or $120,000, the dam breaks. You instantly contract the disease of feeling wealthy, even though on your true balance sheet you are a mere indebted peasant. $100,000 a year carries the cultural weight of power. It sounds like a cosmic permission slip for luxury to flow in your direction. And the tactical poison is that you actually can afford all these debts if you push the limits. The credit card goes through the machine, but affording an installment on its due date and affording an installment while simultaneously protecting your fortress so you don't become a vulnerable senior citizen in the future are two wars in entirely different universes. If the joint base was already full of cracks, when the event of having a child hits that structure, the time bomb detonates the entire building. Let's skip 5 years down Tyler and Jessica's timeline. The natural career promotion has occurred. They are now pulling in $65,000 and $62,000. The volume has risen to a formidable combined $127,000. Instead of being relaxed, they are more strangled, terrified, and exhausted than ever. The baby is born. The cost of daycare rips a lethal $2,000 chunk out of their hide every single month. They convinced themselves through panic that they needed a 3-bedroom apartment, and the rent jumped to $3,200. Their cost burden skyrocketed into the stratosphere, but their income power moved only inches. In this exact moment of existential crisis, Jessica sits at the table with the calculator. She realizes with a frozen heart that after subtracting the cruel costs of full-time daycare, the toll of taxes, and the cost of commuting to the office, her $62,000 annual salary brings to the table a real net profit of a miserable $20,000. She is punching the clock full-time, enduring corporate stress, seeing her own daughter for only 2 exhausting hours a day, all for the sake of an extra $20,000 that are magically incinerated by the inflated lifestyle standard the couple needs to maintain. They call a council to discuss whether Jessica should quit the corporation and stay home. Observe how a lack of past strategy assassinates future options. If, years ago, they had had the military discipline to freeze their spending at the level they had when they were single, this decision would be easy. They could live solely on Tyler's $65,000 because they used to operate perfectly fine with a cost of living of $48,000. But that bridge was blown up. They can no longer live under the cover of a single salary because the financed cars, the giant apartment, and the artificial inflation demand that the cash flow generates the maximum ceiling of $127,000 just to stay afloat. They are trapped in a cell and they swallowed the key. Jessica is forced to return to a job that exhausts her, purely and exclusively because the lifestyle they ordered cannot stand on one leg. Their luxury turned them into hostages to themselves. To show that freedom exists, let's evaluate the rank of a couple of armored operators. David and Sarah. They don't make millions. David brings in $58,000. Sarah makes $53,000. The joint machine totals $111,000, less than the $127,000 of the bankrupt couple. But when David and Sarah crossed the threshold and moved in together, they designed a survival architecture that 90% of modern society would consider martyrdom. They looked at the map and decreed, "We will execute the military protocol of the soldier's quota. We will lock down all our life logistics to fit strictly within the salary of just one person. And we take the second source of income and transform it into a nuclear weapon of financial accumulation." They ran the numbers. David's earnings, after taxes, left a clean $42,000. They tracked down a lean 1-bedroom apartment for $1,400 in a safe neighborhood, but without the glamour. They refused to sell their cheap, paid-off cars. They cooked their own food. The total cost sheet closed on a precise target of $3,000 a month. $36,000 a year, entirely covered by David's salary. What did they do with the remaining ammunition? The entire financial army of Sarah's income, all $53,000 untouchable dollars of it, was injected directly and summarily into investment accounts before it ever saw the light of a shopping mall. They stuffed their emergency fund. They bought stocks aggressively. In the very first year of the merger, this couple accumulated a massive $48,000 in a formidable war chest. Our weak couple, making more money, had saved $18,000. 5 years later, the scenario is one of total annihilation. David and Sarah own an arsenal that tops $300,000 in consolidated net worth. They have zero debt, and when their son was born, Sarah simply handed in her notice at work to take care of the baby without a single drop of stress because they were already living on one salary. The transition was painless, and their freedom was absolute. Tyler and Jessica have $80,000 squeezed into locked funds, are bogged down in car debt, and live on anxiety medication. The difference between the couples wasn't luck. It was the logistical decision made in their first week of living together. The fatal mistake most make is merging money without first performing the audit of honor. You move in for love, but you sign the contracts out of ignorance, without aligning on whether the team's objective is to look rich now or be untouchable tomorrow. The money flows down the drain of inertia. You double the income, but you triple the temptation. Knowing you are in a joint behavioral trap and feeling motivated right now doesn't solve your problem. Tomorrow morning, the corporate machine is going to try to seduce you, and your motivation will evaporate. What wins wars isn't emotion, it's doctrine. It was exactly for those who have decided to stop being a victim of the system that I forged our tactical operations manual. It's called The Order of the Day: 365 high-impact actions for your financial sovereignty. This isn't a self-help book. It's a military execution schedule applied to your money. Imagine having the exact protocol to armor your joint account and cut off lifestyle inflation before it suffocates you. Imagine knowing how to automate your defense, paying yourself before the corporations steal your sweat. In the manual, you will receive one tactical mission per day for an entire year to transform your civilian mind into the mind of an unshakable strategist. Access to the Order of the Day manual is open right now, but the window of opportunity to take command of your operation is limited. The official enlistment link is in the first line of this video's description and is also pinned to the top of the comments. The investment in this weaponry is negligible. It costs less than the interest rate you hand over as a gift to the bank in a single month on a credit card. But the return is absolute control over your life and the eternal security of your family. The choice is pure math. You can continue as an anesthetized civilian working to pay the system's bills, or you can take the post of commander of your wealth. The ammunition is down there waiting for your order. Click the link now and initiate your transition. Keep your perimeter locked, your discipline cold, and your freedom non-negotiable. I am Buck. The briefing ends here. Initiate.